Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to Boomer Life. Our guest in studio, audiologist Dr. Ted Venema from Mainland and NexGen Hearing Centers. NexGen, by the way, friends, is spelled NEXGEN. And Mainland Hearing, of course, well, that'd be like Lower Mainland of British Columbia. That'd be your Greater Vancouver, Ted. This company it's a joint operation that eventually will become all either NexGen or Mainland.
I think NexGen.
NexGen is where it's headed down the road.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, same company, separate divisions. NexGen representing Vancouver Island and the interior, and Mainland representing all of those hearing specialists around Greater Vancouver.
Yep.
You were talking earlier about the cochlea. That little, like a tiny little snail shell.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the main hearing
Center.
instrument in our bodies.
Yeah, that's it.
Where is the cochlea?
The cochlea is what they call your inner ear. You have three parts to your ear. Your outer ear is the flap hanging on the side of your head.
Okay.
and that has a shape for a reason. There's a reason why your outer ear has its shape. It's shaped to resonate.
Okay.
Just like a wine glass does at Christmas when you around the rim.
Right.
Your ear has its weird wrinkly shape because it has to. It resonates with high pitches. And high pitches are treble, and those are the consonants. Your ear is made for your speech.
Interesting.
Speech and hearing. We evolved, or we were created to match. That's why, otherwise we'd have dog or cat's ears.
Oh, okay. So that's the outer ear.
That's the outer ear. The middle ear is the eardrum and behind. There's three little bones: the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. All of those bones can fit on a dime.
And that's just on the other side of the eardrum.
Just on the other side of the eardrum.
Okay.
And that middle ear is a space. It's a little about the size of a sugar cube, and it's got those three little bones in it behind the drum. And those three little bones end in the inner ear, which is the cochlea. And the cochlea is shaped like a snail shell.
Right.
And it has 2.5 little turns in it. And it's about as big as the tip of your pinky. And it's buried in bone. Okay? So the inner ear is where it's at. It's the holy of holies. It's it. Without the inner ear, you got no hearing.
So this is where some of us get confused. Okay, this is where I get confused. If truth be known. Because I get confused because I know that the inner ear has a lot to do with balance.
Yes, it does.
But then there's also this whole hearing thing.
Yep.
So is this a dual function part of the body?
Great questions you're asking. Balance is an old sense. Hearing is a relatively new sense. In utero, during gestation, while you're developing inside mommy, after 3 weeks, your balance organs are already beginning to form. But hearing, that doesn't finish until 3 months.
Oh, okay.
See? So even in terms of evolution, balance is essential to life. Fish swim in schools because they have that line on the side of their bodies. By the way, I hear salmon's running real cheap these days.
Oh, they certainly are.
Gotta get.
Anyway,
so that's how fish know how to swim in schools, is they have a primitive balance organ running down the side of their bodies.
Okay.
Every animal has balance. If you don't have balance, you can't live. Okay. Hearing is a luxury sense built on top of balance.
So interesting. So in our inner ear, we have the balance stuff.
Correct.
And on top of that is the hearing thing.
Yeah. And so all of them have hair cells. Balance has hair cells. It has these three kind of like little ring shaped. They call them semicircular canals. Little rings, tiny little curved organs, and those house all these hair cells for balance, and that helps you tell where your head is in space without you looking.
Okay.
It allows you to tell, what they do if you've been drinking and driving. Balance is a complicated sense.
Right,
One of the parts, they'll have you close your eyes and
touch the tip of your nose.
And
Good
if you
luck,
keep missing,
buddy. Yeah.
Okay. So your balance is really cool because it allows you to know where your body is in space without you looking.
Right.
That's what balance is about.
But it's interesting because, and back to the story of this little boy that we were talking about who heard music for the first time that we saw.
He probably had nothing wrong with his balance.
I was just going to say, he jumped up and he started dancing.
Of course.
He had fabulous balance. So the fact you can be profoundly deaf and still have a perfect balance.
Ask any deaf person. There's deaf power.
Right.
Deaf people often have deaf culture. They use sign language.
Sure, of course.
And they don't have nothing to do with hearing aids unless they want to go dancing and feel sort of the beat, the boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And they will then. But I mean, they'll be the first to tell you don't need hearing to live.
Ah, okay.
Okay, hearing is just meant for the orally communicating, which is most people. That's what we use it for.
So we're talking about normal hearing loss
Yep.
associated with aging.
Yep, that's going
has-
to be damage in the inner ear. the
Right, but
cochlea.
it has absolutely nothing to do with your balance.
No, not really.
So you can be going deaf as a post over a number of
Yeah,
years
yeah.
and still be the best skier in the province.
Yeah, but you know what? You're right.
How about that?
How about that? But still, they must have something to do with each other, because don't you, when you go to a carnival and you look at these kids going on those spinning,
Oh, sure, yeah.
those rides, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't really feel like going on that at age 59. I just don't want to do it. My daughter, okay, let's do it again.
Sure, of course.
And I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, give me a roller coaster, but not the spinning ones. you know.
Right.
So people do get balance problems
Right.
with the age. It's called benign paroxysmal vertigo.
But
It
they're
just
not
means they'll-
necessarily hearing related
No,
at all.
they're not.
completely separate things.
They are.
Despite the fact that wole, both systems
Have-
originate from behind the eardrum in a tiny little area the size of a sugar
Yep,
cube.
they both share fluids. And they have hair cells. Both of them do. So neat, eh?
What we're talking about hearing loss,
Yep.
and on my notes that you handed me a week ago, so I finally got around to reading it 15 minutes ago. We talked about something called conductive hearing
Yeah.
loss. What is conductive hearing
Well,
loss?
that's when you think of that word, think of a wire conducting electricity.
Okay.
Conductive means the pathway. And if there's a blockage in the pathway of sound to getting to the inner ear, you've got a conductive hearing loss. So the most earplugs are a deliberate, on-purpose conductive hearing loss.
Okay.
We're giving ourselves a conductive hearing loss when you wear earplugs.
Sure.
To protect yourself from noise.
Right.
Wax in the ear canal causes, a blockage.
Mhm.
Middle ear infection is the most common, though. Kids get earaches, ear infections, and it comes from the throat. You got a sore throat, and that the infection from the sore throat crawls up these tubes called the eustachian tubes,
Right.
from the back of your throat up to your middle ears. And now the middle ear space fills with fluid because
Right.
it's not supposed to.
And hurts like
and
the
it hurts
blazes.
like hell because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
filled with pus.
Yeah.
The eardrum is now bulging.
Yeah.
And it hurts because, and that's a conductive hearing loss. And that tends to block all sounds equally. Like all pitches, bass, mids, and trebles are all blocked evenly. It's like wearing a set of earplugs.
Why do kids get earaches more so than their parents?
Great question. You'd think you'd have been cued on this.
Why
It's
not?
perfect. Kids get it because their faces.
Because I used to get vicious
Yeah.
earaches when I
Well,
was a little guy.
kids-
Just awful
Yep.
stuff.
Their faces are squatter. They have shorter faces. And because their faces are more squat, the eustachian tubes from the back of their throat to their middle ears are more horizontal.
Oh.
And with that more horizontalness, that allows bacteria to more easily creep into the middle ear from the throat.
Ah.
And so they are more prone to earaches and ear infections. As adults, when we reach our teen years, our faces elongate. So we start to, your jaw sticks out more and your face elongates. Eustachian tubes become more vertical.
Also, they're
got
just
gravity
automatically
working in your
drain
favor.
better.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yep. So, and kids' eustachian tubes tend to be wider and more horizontal. So that's why we tend to grow out of middle ear infections.
Interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
conductive hearing loss is artificial hearing loss?
Well,
is that a good way of
It can
explaining
be caused by disease, by infection.
Sure.
It can be caused by too much wax in the ear, although wax doesn't really cause that much. Wax gives maybe 10, 20%, but it doesn't really block
How
much.
often? This is maybe a dumb question, but you're on it, so it's kind of a gross thing.
Yeah.
But we're talking earwax.
Hey,
here.
hey.
Hey, well, how's your dessert, dear? I don't know. I'll just go wait till the earwax guy's finished, if you don't mind. But how often should we have our ears checked?
Everybody's different.
Right.
Everybody's different. Some people are waxers and some people aren't.
Right.
Some people just have the clearest ears. You look in and it's just, oh, you're disgusting. It's perfectly clear all the way to your drum. There's nothing there.
Oh, okay.
Other people have to have their ears cleaned out several times a year because they really are, it's genetic.
Right. And so who does that? The family doctor?
Family doctors,
Okay.
an audiologist or a hearing instrument practitioner who's trained to do it can also do it.
So part of a hearing test would be, among other things, finding out what kind of shape
Oh,
your
yeah,
ears
we
are
always
in.
look in. You never
Yeah.
do a hearing test without looking in first.
Sure, of
Oh,
course.
yeah, you want to know. And that gets written down in the case study, whether you need to get your ears cleared or not.
Well,
If I look in someone's ears and it's completely occluded with wax,
Right.
I won't do the hearing test until the wax is out. because I want to get a good result.
I was just going to say, maybe the hearing test would be skewed so badly that maybe this person has perfectly normal hearing, but there's so much buildup of gunk in their ear they couldn't hear if they tried.
Exactly. So you want to get that reamed out first, and then we'll do a test. And same with, you'll see a little kid, and he'll come in with an earache. Mom or dad will bring the child in with an ear infection.
Yes.
And I'll do a hearing test then. But I'll know it's an ear infection. I can, you tell by the results. And then when you test through the bone by putting that thing, and you'll talk about your hearing test later. You
sure,
got to.
I do.
But the sound through the bone goes to the cochlea perfect, but sound through the headphone doesn't. You know what? You got a conductive hearing loss.
Right.
And then I'll say, go to a doctor, get a prescription, or get medical treatment, and then come on back and let's find out how the hearing has improved.
Right.
Let's find out. So, we test to discern not only the degree of hearing loss, but also to tell what type of hearing loss you have.
Right.
Is it middle ear? Is it outer ear? Or is it inner ear? Middle ear and outer ear pathology gives conductive hearing loss, blocking the passage of sound to the inner ear.
Okay, right.
Presbycusis, or age-related hearing loss, is called sensory neural, and that's damages only in the cochlea. The eardrum is fine. The middle ear bones are fine.
Right.
No infection. It's just that the retina, in quotes, as we were saying at the beginning of the show, is damaged itself.
Okay.
And medicine can't fix that.
And that's the more common type.
That's 95% of hearing loss.
Oh, okay.
And that's what hearing aids are for.
Right.
And loved ones who understand and who will take the time to let you see their faces and who will take the time to get rid of some background noise because they know you have trouble hearing in noise.
Right.
It doesn't take a weatherman to tell which way the wind blows.
Oh, thank you, Bob Dylan.
And it just, and I'll tell you something else.
But no, it's true. The most common form is the natural aging process of hearing loss. But the conductive hearing loss, you mentioned a few moments ago, earplugs. Are deliberate. But now, and the reason I bring this up is because our guest, Dr. Ted Venema, audiologist and consultant, has been known to make presentations. He's going to do one in Turkey in a few weeks, for goodness sake, but has made presentations around Canada and specifically around British Columbia. And I know that you did a big deal for the people at WorkSafe BC a few months back, and you spoke to line workers. These are BC guys who are out there working with loud equipment and hearing. They wear the earphones on their hard hats, and this is counseling now. This is where the workplace has gone. People who are exposed to sound that could cause
inner ear pathology, because that's what noise does. Noise-induced hearing loss is the second most common cause of hearing loss in the world.
And I would think, Ted, the most preventable.
And it's the most preventable.
Right. So again, where employers have come in 2014 is looking after those people who may be exposed to damaging hear loss work environments.
Ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. It's way cheaper to use preventative medicine. Way cheaper.
And I would imagine when you give these presentations to workers, the guys, the crew guys, are really happy to have a pro come in and show them not only...
They ask good questions,
Well, I was just going to say, not only here's why you do this, but here's how you wear this gear properly.
Because you can wear earplugs poorly.
Right.
Oh, a lot can go wrong with that. But another target population is the youth, kids. I've done talks to grade 6 classes. You want to hit them at grade 6 because they're young enough to listen and yet old enough to be cool.
Okay.
Like to listen to their iPods and iPads and all that.
Right.
And you get them right there at 11 years old. And that's, you show them a video of hair cells in the inner ear, like a cartoon video, and how noise is smashing the hair cells for good. So noise-induced hearing loss is like presbycusis before its time.
Okay.
And it, too, causes treble hearing loss.
Okay, now let's talk about that for a second, because all of us ride public transportation every now and then, not all of us every day. So, okay, I'm sitting on the SkyTrain, right? I'm blasting downtown for a meeting, and there's a kid. He's not sitting beside me. He's sitting across from me.
And you can hear his headphones.
We're sitting on those seats that you look inwards on. And so I can hear pretty much every note. He's got the beads or the buds in his ears, and he's listening to something. I don't recognize the tune, but I can hear almost every note. This kid's a good 6 feet away from me, and I can hear everything he's listening to. This kid is maybe 17 or 18. What kind of hearing loss is that young person in line for?
Well, if one thing, he's not listening to Bob Dylan.
I guess I would have recognized it.
Or you would have recognized it.
That's right.
You know, we don't stare at the sun. You know, we don't with our eyes, because everybody knows it's bad for you. But for some reason, people think they can listen to a din of noise without paying the piper. That kid that you on the bus you're talking about is smashing the crap out of his hair cells.
Right.
And if he continues to do that, it will be permanent, high frequency, high pitch hearing loss.
So this kid is doing the audio equivalent of staring at the sun.
Yeah, like I said, just really putting his eyes at peril by looking at too bright of things, welding without glasses.
Right.
And, you know, it's stupid. You know, just like, oh, don't do that.
Right.
Your ears were meant to hear voices over the soft crackling of a fire. That's what our ears were meant to hear. Elderly people in Africa have better hearing than elderly people in Canada, because Africa has less noise pollution.
Interesting.
It's less industrialized. Our ears were never intended to hear steel on steel. That's a man-made thing.
Right.
We're supposed to hear once in a while the roar of a lion in the distance or thunder, but for us to hear the din of noise pollution that we are daily exposed to causes noise-induced hearing loss.
And I suppose, just to add to that before we take the break here, that if we are deliberately exposing ourselves to that sort of, again, I'm thinking of the earbuds and the loud tunes. Now, come on. Both Ted and I are boomers, for crying out loud. We come from an era in which distortion was considered huge and fantastic entertainment. Wow, did you hear the feedback on Jimmy Page's guitar? I couldn't hear for days. It was fantastic.
Been a long time since I rock and roll.
That's right. Well, all of that. But in those days, and the gear we were listening to that stuff on in the 60s and 70s, today's listeners are the stuff that they're listening on is infinitely superior quality to what we had, and so I would think therefore capable of doing more damage.
Yeah, it's a lot worse. We listened to Sony Walkmans, and when you turned them up, the sound was crappy.
That's true.
Okay. We've managed to defeat, in quotes, that problem. So now you can crank things out at 120 dB with no distortion whatsoever.
Right.
There's delightfully smashing the eardrum and the hair cells. So yes, you know, but you can tolerate a certain amount of noise for brief times.
Sure.
But if, as you know, when you go to a concert like we did, and you wake up the next morning and your ears are ringing.
Still.
And the thing is, that's a warning. That's nature's warning. The hair cells are blown down. It's like walking on blades of grass. If you walk on it once, they'll stand back up again. But you keep walking and you'll wear down a path.
Right.
And now you've got dead hair cells.
Interesting.
So noise is numbers of times you're exposed. Noise is always caused by the amount of noise and the length of time you're exposed to it.
Right.
Those two things interact together.
Right. Our guest on Boomer Life is audiologist Dr. Ted Venema from Next Gen Hearing and Mainland Hearing Centers. And you can check him out online, by the way. If you live on Vancouver Island or anywhere in the BC interior, you're likely to be a client of Next Gen Hearing. And Next Gen, by the way, is spelled NEXGEN hearing.com. That's that website. And anywhere around Metro Vancouver, or what used to be known as the Lower Mainland, well, by gosh, that it's all about mainland hearing. And their website is mainlandhearing.com. Check them out while we take this quick break on Boomer Life on AM 650.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.